This is the Venturing Angler Podcast. I'm Tim Harden. In this episode, we'll be chatting with Pat Pendergast of the Fly Shop in Redding about fly fishing in Mexico at Espiritu Santo Bay Lodge. Let's chat with Pat. All right, we're here with Pat Pendergast of the Fly Shop, and the topic of this episode is fly fishing in Mexico at Espiritu Santo Bay Lodge. Pat, welcome to the Venturing Angler Podcast.
Thanks, Tim. Glad to be here.
So
I've been looking forward to this.
Me too, because there's been a lot of buzz about this destination, and I've been close to that area a couple of times and thought the fishing was great, but I'm hearing reactions from people about this area that I haven't heard before. What's all the excitement about?
You know, what makes Espiritu Santo Bay so special is its location. And if you're not familiar with the geography of the Yucatan Peninsula, you have Cancun up to the north, which is just mega, as everybody knows, it's just a mega tourist destination. And below Cancun, as you come south down the Yucatan Peninsula, you have the famous Ascension Bay, which is been fished and talked about, and written about, photographed for, pretty regularly since 1990. When Jan Isley started Ascension Bay Bonefish Club in Punta Allen. And I was fortunate enough to be working for a company, another fly fishing or fishing agency, who helped start Ascension Bay Bonefish Club with Jan in 1991. And he kind of set the tone for flat fishing in the Yucatan in a more modern way. He was the first to use, two guides in the boat, one pulling the boat and then one up with the angler in the bow looking for fish, and kind of perfected the yarn crab, the raghead crab, and really kind of turned the permit fishing world upside down. And he had some great anglers there, in the past. Ted Williams fished there. Winston Moore from Boise, Idaho, fished with Jan. And kind of the word got out on Ascension Bay, and there was a lot more lodges that were built in Punta Allen that accessed the bay. And then if you continue further down south on the peninsula, you will find Espiritu Santo Bay. And it is half the size of Ascension Bay. And there's virtually no communities or any kind of what you'd even call a town on the bay. The one little lobster cooperative at Punta Herrero has, at maximum during lobster season, maybe 95 people in the population. And so really the location couldn't be better. We share, Espiritu Santo Bay shares the bay with Playa Blanca on the north end of the bay, and then we're on the south end of the bay. And we're the only two licensed outfitters on the bay. There's only 7 boat permits allowed on the bay. All of this is within the 1.3 million acre Yucatan biosphere. So there's no more than 7 boats on the bay at one time. We have 4 boats, and Playa has 3. So we could accommodate 8 anglers maximum per week at Espiritu Santo Bay Lodge.
That's great. And I didn't realize that area fell into the Yucatan biosphere as well. And so for those who aren't familiar, that's a UN recognized World Heritage Site. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, it's a multi-use, million plus acre reserve. Some tourism, sport fishing, obviously, commercial fishing in the way of lobster fishing, but it's very controlled, and they're very strict on who can access and who can have any kind of commercial business, like a fishing lodge, in the reserve. And it's interesting to note that we're very close with the director of the Sean Kong, and they are not giving out any more permits.
Oh, wow.
What's there, there. It's done. You're grandfathered in, and that's it.
That's exciting to hear, because the way I've heard this area described, it made me fearful that, everyone was going to flock there next. So I've been to Punta Allen a couple of times, and it's a little bit of a trek to get there. So my route was both times was flying into Cancun and then maybe a 2.5 to 3 hour drive. But it's a little bit more of a trek to get down to Espiritu Santo Bay. How's that venture?
Yeah, it's actually pretty seamless transfer to the lodge. We have the fishing week at Espiritu Santo Bay runs Sunday to Sunday. So we ask that people fly to Cancun on Saturday and overnight at a hotel just down the road from the international airport. Then on Sunday morning, we'll have a driver pick the clients up in a van and drive them to the FBO or private airport. And then we take about a 45-minute charter down to a landing strip just south of the lodge. And it's a paved strip. Gosh, I think it's 5,000 or 6,000 feet. Then we pick up the anglers at the lodge or at the landing strip, and then it's about an hour drive up a beach road to the lodge. So it's pretty streamlined. It's comfortable. It's a magnificent flight down the peninsula from Cancun. It's a short flight, but it's just, you're just mesmerized by looking at all the water. You see all of Ascension Bay and the Boca Paya Lagoon and all the mangrove marshes and water and flats and islands. It's a big part of the trip. At least it is for me.
That sounds quite nice. And what about? So I already have the sense that it's a lot more remote, and so it's got that feel down there. What else about this destination makes it really stand out, especially in that region?
Well, it is remote. We're completely self-sustained. We use generator power, well water. We have to bring in all our drinking water. It's logistically to operate the lodge. It's very difficult because of our remoteness. The small community of Mahual is to the south of us, about an hour and a half, and then a larger city called Chetumal is about a 2.5 hour drive. So most of all our equipment, fuel, water, food, anything that you would need to run a sport fishing lodge comes from Mahual or Chetumal. So we are very remote. And I think that remoteness, that is what makes the lodge so special, is that we have virtually a bay to ourselves with little or no competition. And, we fish for all 4 species of flat fish: hermit, bonefish, tarpon, and snook. We also catch jack crevalle and barracuda. And I think in my 30 years of being in this business and had my own fishing lodges, helped start some very well-known lodges and marketing all over the world, I've never seen a lodge gain such a favorable reputation in a short amount of time. 2020 is our 4th year of operation. We started in 2017, about mid-season in June. And since our first season, half a season, we've been 100% occupied for the entire season. Pretty amazing. And we run about a 38-week season.
Wow.
And the waiting list to get into the Espiritu Santo Bay Lodge is well over 200 people. And it's kind of the youngster of the saltwater fly fishing world, but it's also probably the most talked about and popular flat fishing destination in the world right now. And that is because of its fishing. It just has tremendous fishing. And we were looking at the numbers just this week, and in 4 years, of which we lost most of 2020 due to the situation we find ourselves in, we've landed over 1,100 permits in that time, two hands.
Wow.
Which is mind-boggling.
I agree. I've never heard of a destination being spoken about so much in such a short amount of time. So would you say that the permit is the permit fishing, that's the main draw?
I would say so, yes. I would say the permit is number one target for most people going to Espiritu Santo Bay. I mean, 2 weeks ago, we had a week with 5 anglers. We landed 34 permits. It was just mind-boggling numbers. But people, too, have to understand that, I mean, we have great bone fishing. The bone fishing in Espiritu Santo Bay has come back due to protection of the fish and strict, laws against commercial fishing or netting of bonefish. It's come back tremendously. I mean, we're seeing bonefish in the Yucatan consistently in the 3 to 4 pound range and up to 5 pounds.
Huh.
5 years ago, we did not see that. Most of them, were the small fish, 1 to 2 pounds, big schools, but no size. And people are really starting to appreciate and target bonefish in the Espiritu Santo Bay. We have some great wading flats, tailing fish, just beautiful white sand flats that you could wade for, hours without changing direction. And in addition to the bonefish, we have, I think, probably the best snook fishing in the Caribbean right now. And our snook fishing starts turning on in mid to late August, and it'll go through November. And we're getting big snook, 15, 20 plus pound snook. And they're eaters because they're not overpressured.
Wow.
And we're getting more and more anglers from the Gulf Coast, Texas, Louisiana, Florida, that have pretty much lost their snook fishing, specifically going down to the Espiritu Santo Bay to target snook because it is good and they're great, great game fish.
And how's the tarpon fishing?
We have 2 different types of tarpon in the Espiritu Santo Bay. We have juvenile tarpon that are resident in and around the mangroves and the creeks, or what we call the rios. And then we have a group of population of tarpon that come into the bay, usually starting in late August, mid-August, and it'll go through to just, through October into early November. And these are migratory tarpon, what we call pelagic tarpon. And these fish will run anywhere from 50 to over 100 pounds.
Wow.
And we'll see them rolling, out in the middle of the bay on bait fish, usually sardinas. And we've had some terrific big tarpon fishing. Better than I would have expected. But again, I think that relates back to the health of the bay and the protection of the bay. And this year alone, we just had some fantastic tarpon fishing and big fish as well. So it's nice that you could either, you could take a 9-weight and target, baby tarpon, in and around the mangroves and the creeks, or you could go out in the bay in the open water, similar to what you see like in Key West or Marathon, and target big fish, with an 11-weight. So we've kind of designated the Espiritu Santo Bay as an opportunistic fishery. And that is, you never know what you're going to see at any time. And it's a destination where you could come up on a flat and start pulling the flat, and you'll see bonefish permit, you'll see cruising single snook, you'll see tarpon rolling on the edges. And it's a destination that you want multiple rods in the boat rigged differently, just to take advantage of the fishery.
That's tremendous. I imagine that it was just juvenile tarpon. I couldn't have imagined how big they are, and also the size of those snook. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, we've got the juvies usually, anywhere from 5 to 15, 20 pounds, and then the adult fish are in the 50 to 100 plus pound size, and the snook will go anywhere from 20 20 inches to 40 inches. And it's interesting that the snook spawn in the fall. And so when we get a nice outgoing tide, they'll come out in the bay because the water in the mangroves is getting shallower and shallower, and they don't feel as comfortable there. And that's really exciting because when you target snook that are cruising the flats. And they'll eat streamers, of course. They'll also eat topwater flies as well, which has to be one of the greatest saltwater fly fishing opportunities anywhere, is taking a big snook on a popper.
That sounds amazing. You mentioned the seasons with respect to the snook and the tarpon. What's the general season at ESB Lodge?
We open the Espiritu Santo Bay usually around early February, and we'll run through June, and then we'll shut down for 6 to 7 weeks just to give everybody a break, and the guys could go back to their families. And then we'll open back up in early September, and we'll run through mid-November. That's been our traditional season.
And are there certain highlights of different parts of the year for you?
That's a great question, Tim. Dane and Kiara Emerson own the lodge. Dane's just a phenomenal outfitter, hands-on, super fishy guy. The emphasis of the lodge is obviously on the fishing, but this guy takes it to another level. And Dane's kind of mantra on that as far as seasonality, we do have seasons, is if he could get 3 days of consistent weather, no matter what that weather is, he can show you great fishing. It's just about having a consistent barometer and weather, and the fish start feeling comfortable. When the weather is going up and down and the barometer is falling and rising, that's when we get difficult fishing. But we could have great fishing any week of the season. Our winter fishing is terrific. We are susceptible, like anything in the Caribbean, like any lodge in the Caribbean, to cold fronts or northers. They're usually very short-lived, a day or two, and we're talking maybe a 5 or 6 drop in temperature. They're not cold, but for the Caribbean, they might be cold. And interesting enough, after a cold front comes through the area, the fishing is spectacular. Because if the water temperatures on the flats drop a couple degrees, the flat species will go off the flats in the deeper water to find more consistent temperatures. But once the cold front's through, things return to normal. They come back on the flats. And of course, they're extremely hungry because that's why they're on the flats to eat. So fishing after a cold front, if your timing's right, can be spectacular. So we were talking about seasons, Tim, and like I said, we'll run from early February and then we'll, till June, and then take a break in the middle, and then we'll start up again in September. We'll run through November. Everybody seems to want to target, March, April, May. Because traditionally, and we've been conditioned to think that's the best time to go fishing in, the Yucatan Peninsula, Belize, the Bahamas. But that's not necessarily true at Espiritu Santo Bay. My favorite time to fish in the Yucatan and certainly the Espiritu Santo Bay is summer and fall. To me, that's produced my most consistent fishing. And if you were to say pick a week, to go in 2021, and I had a pick of the litter of weeks, I would go in the fall. Sometime September, October, November, probably mid-September, because our tarpon fishing at that time of the year is off the charts. There's loads of permit in the bay. Bonefish is good all the time. And then the snook fishing in the fall is the best, without a doubt.
That's great. With all these different species, and especially the range of how you can target them and their sizes, what are some of the recommendations you'd make for people who want to bring flies down there?
Yeah, absolutely. Fly-wise, it's a pretty short list. I would say 75, maybe 80% of the permit that we're catching in Espiritu Santo Bay are on shrimp patterns. Probably the number one pattern is the number 2 yellow-eyed squimp. which is a tan shrimp pattern with rubber legs. We've also had really good success on the white Casablanca crab with yellow eyes. And then we fish, the Enrico Puglisi spawning shrimps. We spent 2 years developing our own shrimp pattern. Dane Emerson, the guy, some of the fellows here at the shop that are avid tyers, and those are just coming out for our 2021 catalog, and those are going to be super successful. Bonefish in the Espiritu Santo Bay eat anything. We've caught bonefish on tarpon streamers. They're super aggressive. They're not shy. They'll eat anything. Any crazy Charlie, anywhere from a size 6 to a 2, they'll eat. For tarpon, for the most part, we fish a lot of tarpon toads in 1/0 or larger for the bigger fish. We fish a lot of the EP Everglades type bait fish patterns. The same for snook. We'll fish the EP like mangrove critters in purple, black, chartreuse and white have been really good for us. You really don't need a lot of flies down there. You just need the right fly. And it's nice that Dane has a really good stock of flies down there. So if you come down there and you're light on a certain pattern, or he could help replenish that. He doesn't ask for anything as far as compensation. He just wants you to have a great time and be successful out there.
Nice. What with the same issue of different species and sizes, what about other tackle, rods, reels?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's an opportunistic fishery, so you want to bring multiple rods. If you want to concentrate, I think the perfect bonefish rod is probably a 7 weight. And for permit, we like to fish an 8 or a 9. Probably 9 being the number one choice. If it's really windy, you could even go up to a 10. But a 9 weight seems to be perfect. And then for the tarpon, the juvenile tarpon will fish a 9 weight, and then the big tarpon will fish 11 or 12. And we fish all floating lines except for when the big pelagic tarpon are in deeper water, and then we will fish some sink tips. The lodge has a full quiver of all Scott rods, catch reels. So if you break a rod or you lose luggage, we literally have, I think, at least 2 dozen different fly rods down there that you could borrow. So you're set there. But you definitely want to bring at least 2 rods, and most guys will bring somewhere in the nature of 4 rods, different weights, with backups.
And what type of boats are you guys fishing out of?
We fish out of an 18-foot Hell's Bay Waterman.
Wow.
Which is a really nice skiff, powered by a 40-horse Yamaha Enduro. And they're great fishing skiffs. They're quick. They need max speed about 38 miles an hour when it's calm. They're set up for 2 anglers. We have cushions and seats in the skiffs. Yeti coolers for lunch and cold drinks and beers. We give each guest their own water bottle for the week that they can take home with them. Just trying to kick the plastic habit. Skiffs are nice. They're professional skiffs. They can be a little rough when it's real choppy, but the guys are good about motor or idling back down and navigating the water well.
That's great. I didn't expect you to say it was going to be a Hell's Bay Waterman. That sounds pretty nice, and I'm impressed.
I think you're the Hell's Bay Watermans in Mexico. I mean, all the flat fishing lodges in Mexico, in Ascension Bay and the Boca Paya Lagoon, they'll all fish, the 22-foot tongas. Really, they're called launches, and they're great. I mean, they're shallow draft. They're beefy. They take rough water well. So if you're coming from Punta Allen all the way over to Tres Marias, which is probably a 45, 50-minute drive, they're great for that rough water crossing. But our bay is a lot smaller. And the skiffs we have down there, they're specifically built for flats fishing. I mean, they can literally go in 4 inches of water. And what's even more important is they're quiet. They don't have the wave slap on the hull. So we could get our anglers closer to the fish, which just translates into, better shots, more hookups.
Yeah, I like to joke that I on this podcast ask a lot of questions that I already know the answer to, and I was prepared for you to start describing the pangas, but you got me on that one. That sounds great.
Oh, good. Really nice. Good. Massive, platforms on the front, so you can really move around, and they're safe. All the boats we have satellite communication with the guys, radio communication, life jackets. The heart and soul of the fishing program is our skiff, so they're well looked after.
So for anglers who are already interested in ESB Lodge or are now more interested, you mentioned there's a long wait list. How does one go about trying to get down there as soon as they can?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. I mean, give us a call at the fly shop on our toll-free number, 800-669-3474, or shoot us an email at travel@theflyshop.com, and we'll get you on the list. It's, every year, especially this year, we have people that can't make trips or change of plans, or something comes up in the family or business. So I would say every year we're probably able to place at least 24 people that were not originally signed up for a trip to Espiritu Santo Bay Lodge, and get them in a week. So you just have to be patient. You have to be willing, to maybe move on a trip pretty quick within 2 or 3 weeks. But we have, we take 8 anglers a week. We have a pretty long season. So if you're a little flexible and you're willing to hold in there for a spot that comes up, we're usually able to make people happy.
So for you overall, what are your favorite things about this destination and this lodge?
The people, first and foremost. Dane and Kiara, the owners and hosts, are hands-on right there at the lodge 24/7. And together with their dedicated staff that's been hand-selected, they just strive at making people happy. And that's a huge part of the equation for a successful operation. The location is really special. I don't know of a more wilderness flats fishing experience in the Caribbean that can match the Espiritu Santo Bay for just being remote and isolated. And it's really special that we're able to, chase flat species in an environment that's not impacted and pressured. And it's for people that have flat fished all over the world, the Seychelles, Bahamas, Belize, Mexico, anywhere. I think they really appreciate and their eyes light up when they see fish acting naturally in their environment. And that just spells, more opportunities and a higher catch rate than what a lot of other lodges see. So for me, it's the people, the location, and it's a special place. It really is. We're really, really excited about it, and we're taking care of the fish, and we're taking care of the locals, and we include the locals as much as we can in our business operation, and we have a great relationship with them, and they're starting to understand and appreciate how a non-consumptive commercial operation can benefit the bay, the environment, and the local people. I take my hat off to Dane and Kiara for making that special relationship.
For those who want to learn more, where, at least in the digital world, can they learn more about?
Yeah, you can go to our website, theflyshop.com. You could go to esblodge.com, and there's tons of information on there. You can shoot us an email, travel@theflyshop.com. We'll inundate you with more information you probably want to review. Our pre-trip tackle and travel planner for ESB, I think it's like 30 pages, and it's kind of a double-edged sword. But for people that are into their fishing, I mean, they want to know everything about it. They want to know every single piece of equipment that's needed to be successful. So, and we're always available on the phone as well.
Terrific. Well, for those out there who are interested in learning more, I encourage you to explore it, because it's pretty impressive. And the Fly Shop sends out fishing reports that every time I read one, I think this must be some sort of mistake, because the numbers are so impressive. And hats off to everybody involved in that.
Yeah, the numbers are impressive, and sometimes we have bad weather. I mean, it's fishing's dependent on your weather. Well, but Dean personally writes the fishing report every Sunday night, and we receive them on Monday, and we get those reports out to anybody on the ESB report email list. But Dane's a good writer, and the reports are fun to read. They're fun for us to read too, because it's not just a tally of fish numbers. It talks about the clients, it talks about the guides, the chefs, the food, the weather, the tide, fly lines. It really goes into great depth about the week that just finished. And he always kind of sets up the next week. This week we're joined by, people that this is their fourth trip here, and their friends, their family. And so the fishing reports, as much as they are a tool, it's just a very nice and warm, fuzzy read every Monday morning as you're starting your week.
Well, you mentioned, as we all know, fishing can be bad. There can be bad weather, but there was a bad weather report a couple of weeks ago that had better fishing numbers than any other saltwater trip I've ever taken. So you guys are doing it right down there.
They're doing a great job down there. We're super proud. And like I said, it's a big family. The guides are amazing. They're just super nice people. Nice people to spend a day in the boat with, not stressed out. And Dane and Kiara take super good care of them. They're family members, and people just love them.
Well, Pat, it was great talking to you, and I appreciated learning more about this destination, and thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate the opportunity, and we have to get you down to ESB.
Sounds good to me.
All right.
All right.